Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. We love to explore, and today it's all about us. It's all about the human body. We're going to take a whirlwind tour of human anatomy, and our guide is going to be kind of an interesting source. We've got a human anatomy quiz from YouTube. We figured, hey, why not use this as like a jumping off point?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so it's like a choose your own adventure. We're going to hit those like highlights, the skeletal system, muscular, integumentary, nervous, endocrine, cardiovascular, lymphatic, respiratory, digestive, urinary, and reproductive. 11 organ systems. We're going to hit them all.
Wow, that's a lot to cover.
It is a lot to cover, but, it's the human body. So we got to start with the framework, right? The skeletal system. I mean, did you know that there are approximately 206 bones in the adult human body?
That's right. And they're not all the same. Those 206 bones come in different types. Long bones like your femur.
Right, the thigh bone.
Exactly. Or short bones like the ones in your wrists and hands. And then there are flat bones like your skull, protecting your brain.
Oh, speaking of skulls, the quiz reminded me of something I always found kind of fascinating. Those sutures. What are those exactly?
Sutures, yeah, those are the immovable joints that connect the bones of your skull. They let the skull be a little flexible when you're a baby, but then they fuse together as you grow up.
Wow, so it's all one solid piece.
Yeah, pretty much you need that solid protection for your brain.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about those sesamoid bones? The quiz mentioned those. What are those all about?
Sesamoid bones. They're these small round bones that are actually embedded within tendons.
Within tendons?
Yeah, sounds weird, right? But they help protect the tendons from stress, and where a great example is your kneecap, your patella.
Oh, okay, I see. So it's like a little shield.
Exactly.
That's wild. And, speaking of bones, I was reading that bones are always changing, like they're not just static structures.
That's right. Bone is living tissue. It's constantly remodeling itself. Old bone tissue is broken down and new tissue is formed. It's like a constant renovation project.
So it's like our skeletons are constantly being sculpted.
In a way, yeah. And what's fascinating is that the way your bones remodel is actually influenced by the stresses you put on them.
Really? So like exercise can actually change the shape of our bones?
It can. That's the principle behind Wolff's Law. The more stress you put on a bone, the stronger it gets. So weightlifting, for example, can actually increase bone density.
Wow. So our skeletons are like little masterpieces constantly being shaped by our activities.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, enough about bones for now. Let's move on to what makes us move the muscular system. And I know there are like different types of muscle in our bodies, right?
There are three main types: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac.
Okay, so break those down for us.
Sure. So skeletal muscles are the ones you control voluntarily, like the muscles in your arms and legs when you want to move your arm. You send a signal from your brain to your skeletal muscles, and they contract to make it happen.
So those are the ones we use for like lifting weights or playing sports.
Exactly. Now, smooth muscles are a little different. They're found on the walls of your organs, like your stomach, intestines, and blood vessels. You don't have conscious control over these muscles. They work automatically to keep things moving along.
So like when you eat, smooth muscles help push the food through your digestive system.
Right. And then there's cardiac muscle, which is a special type of muscle found only in your heart.
Yeah.
It's responsible for the continuous rhythmic contractions that pump blood throughout your body.
It's like the engine that keeps us going.
Precisely.
And speaking of muscles working, I remember the quiz had a question about how the biceps muscle bends the elbow, but which muscle straightens it out?
That would be the triceps. The biceps and triceps work together as an antagonistic pair. When one contracts, the other relaxes. It's what allows for smooth, controlled movement.
It's like a perfectly coordinated dance.
Exactly. And that dance requires energy. Did you know that every time a muscle contracts, it uses a molecule called ATP as its energy source?
ATP.
Right.
I remember hearing about that, but what exactly is it?
ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, and it's like the tiny little battery pack that powers all the cellular processes in your body, including muscle contraction. Every time you move, you're burning through ATP, and your body has to constantly replenish it.
That's amazing. So it's like our muscles are running on these little ATP batteries.
That's a good analogy.
So we've got this amazing framework of bones and muscles working together to allow us to move. But what about the outer layer that protects us from the world? The integumentary system, our skin, hair, and nails.
Yes, the integumentary system. It's often overlooked, but it's crucial for our survival. Did you know that your skin is actually the largest organ in your body?
Really? I never thought about it that way. But it makes sense when you consider how much surface area it covers.
And it's not just a covering. It's a complex organ with multiple layers: the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis.
The quiz mentioned melanin. What's that all about?
Melanin is a pigment that gives our skin, hair, and eyes their color. It's produced by specialized cells called melanocytes, and it plays a crucial role in protecting our skin from the sun's harmful UV rays.
So it's like our built-in sunscreen.
Exactly. The more melanin you have, the darker your skin and the more protection you have from the sun.
That's pretty cool. And speaking of skin, the quiz also mentioned something called vellus hair. What's that?
Vellus hair is that fine, short hair that covers most of your body. It's different from the thicker terminal hair that grows on your scalp, eyebrows, and other areas.
So it's like our body's own peach fuzz.
You could say that.
Interesting. Now let's move on to the system that controls everything. The nervous system. How does our brain communicate with the rest of our body and tell our muscles what to do?
It all comes down to neurons, those specialized cells that transmit electrical signals throughout the body like a complex network of wires.
I remember the quiz mentioned different types of neurons, like sensory neurons and motor neurons.
Right. Sensory neurons carry information from our sense organs like our eyes, ears, and skin to the brain, while motor neurons carry signals from the brain to our muscles and glands telling them what to do.
So it's like a two-way communication system.
Exactly, and there are also interneurons which connect other neurons within the brain and spinal cord helping to process and relay information.
It's amazing how these tiny cells can orchestrate such complex actions.
And that communication happens through chemical messengers called neurotransmitters.
The quiz mentioned acetylcholine. What does that one do?
Acetylcholine is a crucial neurotransmitter involved in muscle contraction. It's released from motor neurons at the neuromuscular junction, the point where the neuron meets the muscle fiber, and it triggers the muscle to contract.
So it's like the signal that tells the muscle to move.
Exactly.
Wow, our bodies are like these incredible communication networks. Now let's move on to the endocrine system, the master regulator of our body's hormones. I know hormones are important, but how do they work?
Hormones are chemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream to target cells throughout the body. They regulate a wide range of bodily functions from growth and development to metabolism and mood.
So they're like little messengers with specific instructions.
That's a good way to think about it. Each hormone has a specific target cell or organ that it binds to, triggering a specific response.
The quiz mentioned cortisol, the stress hormone. What does that one do?
Cortisol is produced by the adrenal glands, and it plays a vital role in our body's response to stress. It helps regulate blood sugar levels, blood pressure, and the immune system.
So it's like our body's alarm system.
In a way, yes. When we face a stressful situation, our body releases cortisol to help us cope. But if we're constantly stressed out, cortisol levels can stay elevated, which can have negative effects on our health.
So it's important to manage stress.
Absolutely. Chronic stress can lead to problems like anxiety, depression, weight gain, and even heart disease.
Now moving on to the system that literally keeps us alive, the cardiovascular system, what keeps our blood pumping 24/7.
It all starts with the heart, a powerful pump that circulates blood throughout our body. It's made up of 4 chambers, 2 atria, and 2 ventricles.
And the quiz talked about arteries, veins, and capillaries.
Right. Arteries carry oxygen-rich blood away from the heart veins, carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart, and capillaries are tiny blood vessels that connect arteries and veins. It's at the level of the capillaries where the exchange of oxygen, nutrients, and waste products takes place.
So it's like a vast network of roads.
Exactly. The circulatory system is like a complex highway system with the heart as the central hub.
And the quiz mentioned the aorta. What's so special about that?
The aorta is the largest artery in the body. It originates from the left ventricle of the heart and branches out to deliver oxygenated blood to all parts of the body.
So it's like the main highway.
Precisely.
Now, while we're on the topic of vital bodily fluids,
Yeah.
let's talk about the lymphatic system, that often overlooked part of our immune system.
Right.
What exactly does it do?
The lymphatic system is like our body's drainage system. It helps maintain fluid balance, filter waste products, and protect us from disease.
And I remember the quiz mentioned lymph nodes.
Yes, lymph nodes are small, bean-shaped organs that filter lymph fluid, trapping harmful substances like bacteria, viruses, and cancer cells. They're like little checkpoints along the lymphatic vessels.
So they're like tiny filters, keeping our system clean.
That's a good way to put it. And the lymphatic system also includes other organs like the spleen and tonsils, which play important roles in immunity.
Wow, the lymphatic system is more complex than I thought. Now let's move on to the system that keeps us breathing, the respiratory system. It seems so simple. We just breathe in and out, but what's really happening inside?
Breathing is actually a complex process that involves the coordination of multiple muscles and organs. When you inhale, your diaphragm contracts and flattens, pulling air into your lungs.
And the quiz talked about those tiny air sacs called alveoli.
Yes, alveoli are the functional units of the lungs. It's here where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. Oxygen from the inhaled air diffuses into the bloodstream, while carbon dioxide from the blood diffuses into the alveoli to be exhaled.
So it's like a constant gas exchange happening in our lungs.
That's right.
Now let's talk about what happens to all the food we eat. The digestive system. It's amazing how our bodies break down food and extract the nutrients we need.
The digestive system is a long, winding tube that starts at your mouth and ends at your anus.
The quiz focused on the small intestine.
The small intestine is where most of the nutrient absorption takes place. It's lined with tiny finger-like projections called villi, which increase the surface area for absorption.
So it's like a long hallway with thousands of tiny fingers reaching out to grab nutrients.
I like that analogy.
And after the small intestine comes the large intestine, right?
Exactly. In the large intestine, water is absorbed from the remaining indigestible food matter, and waste products are compacted into feces for elimination.
It's amazing how our bodies can handle such a variety of foods.
It truly is.
Now, speaking of waste elimination, let's move on to the urinary system. What happens to all those waste products our bodies produce?
The urinary system is responsible for filtering waste products from the blood and producing urine. The kidneys are the main organs involved in this process.
The quiz mentioned nephrons. What are those?
Nephrons are the tiny filtering units within the kidneys. They remove waste products from the blood and regulate the balance of water and electrolytes.
So they're like miniature filtration plants.
Exactly. And the urine produced by the kidneys is then transported through the ureters to the bladder where it's stored until it's eliminated from the body through the urethra.
It's incredible how our bodies can get rid of waste so efficiently.
It's all thanks to the coordinated efforts of the urinary system.
And finally, let's talk about the system responsible for creating new life. The reproductive system is one of the most fascinating and complex systems in our bodies.
The reproductive system is all about the continuation of the species. The male reproductive system produces sperm, while the female reproductive system produces eggs.
And the quiz mentioned fertilization.
Fertilization occurs when a sperm cell meets an egg cell, typically in the fallopian tube, and a new life begins to form.
It's amazing how these two systems work together to create something so incredible.
It truly is a miracle of nature.
Wow. We've covered so much ground today, from the skeletal system to the reproductive system. It's incredible how all these systems work together to keep us alive and functioning.
It's a symphony of biological processes happening inside us all the time.
It certainly is, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore and learn about the human body.
I agree. The journey of discovery never ends.
Well, stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll delve even deeper into the fascinating world of human anatomy.
We'll uncover even more secrets about how our bodies work.
Until then, keep exploring and keep those questions coming.
And never stop being amazed by the incredible machine that is the human body.
Welcome back to our anatomical adventure.
You know, it's funny, we spend all day every day in these bodies of ours. But how often do we really stop and think about all the incredible stuff going on inside?
It's true. We just go about our lives taking our bodies for granted most of the time.
Right. Like right now, as we're talking, our hearts are beating, our lungs are breathing, our digestive systems are working. It's mind-boggling. It really is, and we don't have to think about any of it. It just happens automatically.
It makes you realize just how complex and amazing the human body really is. So let's keep exploring those amazing systems we left off talking about, the lymphatic system. Those tiny filters working to keep us healthy. But there's one part we haven't mentioned yet. Peyer's patches. What are those exactly?
Yes. Peyer's patches, they're like specialized immune outposts located in the ileum, the last part of your small intestine.
The ileum.
Yeah, it's the final section of the small intestine. And these Peyer's patches are clusters of lymphatic tissue that monitor the contents of your digestive tract, looking for any harmful bacteria or other pathogens.
So they're like the last line of defense.
You could say that they play a crucial role in preventing those unwanted guests from causing trouble in your body.
It's fascinating how our bodies have evolved these intricate defense mechanisms, now switching gears to the respiratory system. Remember, the quiz mentioned a condition called emphysema. What exactly is that?
Emphysema is a serious lung condition where the alveoli, those tiny air sacs responsible for gas exchange, become damaged and lose their elasticity.
And what causes that damage?
Smoking is the primary culprit. The harmful chemicals in cigarette smoke gradually destroy those vital alveoli, making it much harder to breathe.
So it's like the lungs lose their ability to efficiently absorb oxygen.
Exactly. And that can lead to a whole host of problems like shortness of breath, fatigue, and even heart failure.
It's another stark reminder of the devastating impact smoking can have on our health. Now, let's revisit the digestive system. We talked about how food gets broken down and nutrients are absorbed, but the quiz mentioned an enzyme called pepsin. What role does that play?
Pepsin is a key player in protein digestion. It's produced in the stomach, and its job is to break down those long, complex protein molecules into smaller peptides.
Peptides?
Yeah, they're like shorter chains of amino acids, making them easier to absorb later on in the small intestine.
So pepsin is like a protein shredder.
You could say that it's a crucial step in ensuring our bodies can effectively utilize the protein we eat.
And what about bile? The quiz mentioned it's produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. What does it do?
Bile is like a detergent for fats. It helps emulsify fats, breaking them down into smaller droplets that can be more easily digested by enzymes.
Emulsify.
Yeah. It basically means to mix two liquids that don't normally mix, like oil and water bile, helps disperse the fat into tiny droplets so that the digestive enzymes can do their work.
So bile is like a fat-busting superhero.
Exactly. It plays a vital role in ensuring we can efficiently digest and absorb those essential fatty acids.
Now on to the urinary system. We talked about the kidneys filtering waste products and producing urine, but the quiz mentioned the urethra. What's that exactly?
The urethra is the tube that carries urine from the bladder out of the body.
Oh, okay, so it's like the exit ramp for the urine.
You got it. It's the final step in the process of waste removal.
And the quiz also mentioned a hormone called erythropoietin that's produced by the kidneys. What does that do?
Erythropoietin is essential for red blood cell production. When your kidneys sense that your blood oxygen levels are low, they release erythropoietin, which stimulates your bone marrow to produce more red blood cells.
So it's like the kidneys are sending out an SOS signal when they need more oxygen carrying capacity.
Exactly. It's a fascinating example of how our organs communicate with each other to maintain homeostasis.
Now, before we move on, let's have a little fun and test our knowledge with a quick quiz based on what we've learned so far. Ready?
Bring it on. I'm always up for an anatomy challenge.
All right, first question. What type of bone cell is responsible for breaking down and reabsorbing bone tissue?
Think about that dynamic remodeling process we discussed earlier.
Okay, so we're talking about the cells that are like the demolition crew of the skeletal system. It's osteoclasts. They break down old bone tissue, making way for new bone to form.
That's absolutely right. Osteoclasts are essential for maintaining bone health and strength.
Next question. Which type of muscle is responsible for moving food through the digestive tract?
Okay, so we're talking about the muscles that work automatically without conscious control.
Right. It's got to be smooth muscle. Those are the ones that line our digestive system and keep things moving along.
You nailed it. Smooth muscle is the unsung hero of digestion.
What is the name of the connective tissue that attaches muscle to bone?
This one should be easy. It's like the strong cords that anchor our muscles to our bones.
It's tendons. They allow us to move our limbs by transmitting the force of muscle contraction to the bones.
Correct. You're on a roll.
Now, for a question about the integumentary system, what is the scientific name for the oil that's produced in the sebaceous glands in the skin?
Let's see. Melanin is the pigment that gives skin its color, and keratin is a protein found in hair and nails.
So it must be sebum. Sebum is the oil that helps keep our skin lubricated and waterproof.
Right. Again, you clearly remember those sebaceous glands.
Which part of the brain is responsible for regulating vital functions such as breathing and heart rate?
This one requires some knowledge of brain anatomy.
Okay, so we need to think about the part of the brain that controls those essential life-sustaining functions. It's not the cerebrum, which is responsible for higher-level thinking, and it's not the cerebellum, which helps with balance and coordination, so it must be the brainstem.
That's absolutely correct. The brainstem is working behind the scenes, keeping us alive even when we're sleeping.
Which gland is responsible for producing the hormone insulin?
Think back to our discussion about blood sugar regulation.
It's the pancreas. Insulin helps our cells absorb glucose from the bloodstream, keeping those sugar levels in check.
You're a hormone whiz.
What is the name of the largest artery in the body?
This one's a classic. It's the main highway of the circulatory system.
It's the aorta. It carries oxygen-rich blood from the heart out to the rest of the body.
You've got a great handle on those blood vessels.
What is the name of the fluid that circulates through the lymphatic system?
It's not plasma, which is found in blood, and it's not spinal fluid, which circulates around the brain and spinal cord.
So it must be lymph. Lymph is the clear fluid that carries waste products and immune cells through the lymphatic system.
You're absolutely right. Lymph is essential for keeping our bodies clean and defending against those pesky pathogens.
What is the muscle that separates the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity and plays a key role in breathing?
Remember that dome-shaped muscle we talked about?
It's the diaphragm. It contracts and relaxes, drawing air into our lungs and expelling it back out.
Correct. You're a breathing expert.
What is the primary site for nutrient absorption in the digestive system.
Think back to those tiny finger-like projections. Where are they located?
It's the small intestine. Those increase the surface area for maximum nutrient absorption.
You've mastered the digestive journey?
Which organ's main function is to clean the blood of toxins and transform the waste into urine.
This one's a no-brainer. It's those hardworking kidneys. They're constantly filtering our blood and sending those waste products packing in the form of urine.
You aced our anatomy quiz. You've clearly been paying attention.
Yeah.
I've been trying. It's hard not to be fascinated by all this incredible information about how our bodies work.
I agree. It's truly amazing.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still so much more to explore. Join us for part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll wrap things up with some final insights and thought-provoking questions about the future of human anatomy. Welcome back, anatomy adventurers. We've journeyed through the skeletal system, marveled at the muscular system, and explored the intricate workings of our organs.
We've seen how our bodies are these incredible interconnected ecosystems constantly working to keep us alive and thriving.
It's amazing, isn't it, all these complex systems working together so seamlessly? But it also makes you wonder about the possibilities, like if we could enhance our own biology, what would we change?
That's a fascinating question. It really pushes us to think beyond what we consider normal and imagine the potential of human evolution.
If you could design one improvement to the human body, what would it be?
That's a tough one. There are so many areas ripe for improvement, but if I had to choose, I'd focus on boosting our regenerative capabilities.
Regenerative capabilities, you mean like being able to regrow a limb if we lose one?
Exactly. Imagine if we could regenerate damaged tissues and organs. We could heal wounds faster, reverse the effects of aging, and potentially even cure diseases that are currently considered incurable.
That would be revolutionary. We could say goodbye to chronic conditions and live longer, healthier lives. But wouldn't that create all sorts of ethical dilemmas?
Absolutely. Any major advancements in human enhancement would come with complex ethical considerations. We'd need to carefully weigh the benefits against the potential risks and societal implications.
It's like opening Pandora's box. But it's hard not to be excited about the possibilities. What if we could engineer our bodies to be more resistant to disease or to repair themselves after injuries?
It's a tantalizing thought, and it highlights the incredible potential of scientific discovery and human ingenuity. Who knows what the future holds for human anatomy?
It's mind-blowing to think about, well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the human body.
But the journey of discovery never ends. We encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions about the world around you and the world within you.
Because there's a universe of wonder inside each and every one of us, just waiting to be discovered.
So stay curious, keep learning, and never stop exploring the incredible world of human anatomy.
Thanks for joining us on this fascinating adventure. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.